This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
Hey, and a pleasant good day to all of you. I hope everybody's having a wonderful time. Since the last time we got together, we have got a great show for you. Next week, I just want to remind you, Frank Bavette and Lisa Sherman are going to be joining us. And they're two Broadway performers. Frankie, of course, won a Golden Globe Award as well as an Academy Award for some of his songs that were in Dirty Dancing. And I look forward to that. They've been on the program before, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I also just want to thank the Japanese Gardens for their continuing support of Miami, as well as the Elks Lodges of South Florida for their continued support of this particular program. Without them, we couldn't continue doing this. This program that we're going to be doing today hits particularly close to home, not only for me, but for everybody involved in this particular program. It's called On Your Six Foundation, which is the main foundation for which we are doing this program. We have representatives from there. We also have representatives from the Elks Clubs of South Florida, Lodges 948 and 1676. I always want to say 1776. I don't, it's just Gary. Anyway, so without further ado, let me introduce these folks to you. We're going to have Josh Messia. He's from the On Your Six Foundation. He's also a chaplain, and he's really, there he is. He's doing great. We also have Sharon Weiss, grant coordinator for the Miami Lakes Lodge 948. We also happen to have Captain Fred Jocka, my captain, former U.S. Army Ranger, Elks Southern District Director of Veterans Affairs from Lodge 1776 or 1676. I did it. I knew I was going to do it.
It's okay. We like 1776 here.
Yeah, and Rick Delvecchio, executive producer of this program, also grant coordinator for the South Miami Coral Gables Elks Lodge, 1676. I did it, Rick. I finally did it on the air. 1776. I finally got it out of the way. It's out of my system. Thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. Before we get started, Sharon, I read so much about it from what you sent out to Rick. And thank you all very much for taking the time out of your day to talk about this very, very interesting subject. As I said, I didn't really go into it too much in the opening, but On Your Six Foundation is here to help veterans, homeless veterans, veterans and their families, veterans who need to get a start. Sharon, explain exactly what's going on. You've been at it since 2021. You've been in the real estate market as well in your private life and everything. So what got this whole thing going for you in 2021, and where are you today? And we're also going to have the chaplain Josh talk about it too, as well as everyone else.
I'm kind of minimal in all of this. I just I joined. I did. I joined the lodge to be able to help help people, and then as I joined, I found out that veterans were the ones that were the most need. And that's what I've been doing. So I got him. I was a secretary for the lodge for a year, and nobody was writing their grants. So I decided to go at it. And along with the assistance of Rick and Fred, I kind of just went on pretty much on my own, and helped female veterans that have had children, had homeless veterans, but there was this other option of welcome home packages for Elks that Elks has, and it's been, I think, extremely underutilized because I honestly don't know anybody that's ever done it before. But I just submitted mine today for 12 people, 12 beds, 12 of everything that we can imagine. I submitted that today, and I heard about this from Ozzy, who took me to a MAC meeting in Homestead, and I met Joshua there. I went to visit the towers, and that's where it all started. I mean, yeah, that's just me trying to help in whatever way I can.
Josh, talk about what
On
Your Six. Now, I know what On Your Six means. It means we've got your back, we've got you covered. Talk about what it is that you folks are doing. I know that Rick has talked to me about you're going to be building apartment complexes and facilities for homeless veterans, veterans that are going through a bad time. There you go. It's a YU6, On Your Six Foundation. For those of you that are not familiar with the term On Your Six, it means I've got your back. Yeah, don't worry, I'm there for you. Talk about what you folks are doing, you're building down there in South Florida, and the benefits of it, who's going to benefit from it, and the parameters of who can qualify, who can't. And we'll go through that as we go through the program. But for now, just give us some basic ideas of what it is that you folks are doing down there.
Totally. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the Elks and the chance to be able to communicate what Sharon and I just accomplished, actually, just down in South Florida at the Excello Living in Modern Towers. We were able to house, right now we're in the process of another 5. So we're in a total of 12 veterans that are coming from the Miami-Dade VA homeless shelter system. So this is in direct correlation with Miami VA. And these are veterans that received the Section 8 voucher, what we call HUD-VASH voucher, which I've been a part of the vet plan of America First, Vet First, the past 20 years, and Housing First specifically, which we helped to increase from 30,000 vouchers to 76,000 vouchers underneath Obama in 2015. So this has been a long and arduous plan that has been enacted first in Homestead, Florida, where On Your Six Foundation came together with Miami VA to help place veterans there specifically, and Sharon in community, as we were at the Military's Affairs Committee community meeting at Homestead Base, which I've been as a U.S. Combat Navy veteran myself many times over the past 30 years, and because that's quite frankly the main direction and space when it comes to all counter narco-terrorism in South America and fighting against all that has occurred as well in the Caribbean. And it's just a great location for protecting our country. And so Sharon and I connected, and we were speaking about what On Your Six Foundation was doing to roll out the carpet for these veterans, to help them in their transition into these new homes, into these brand new net zero apartments, which we came together with the developer because we knew inherently that without roots, you can't have fruits. And veterans need to be rooted in solid housing. And from there, then we can help them with what we call the whole veteran, which is the mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional well-being of the service member. Now, when I signed up and put my hand on the Bible in Philadelphia at the young age of 17, in my contract, it said that America would make me whole again. And that was a contract that America made with me, as I and every other service member, quite frankly, before me and after me as well, that America would make the veteran whole. I believe that. I believe that as a serial developer generation, but multiple generations that served in the active duty, that fought our wars, and it can go back to the 1800s. My lineage has been a part of that. Fight the good fight, come home, and start a family. And it has been this mindset that I went in, and many service members did, that America's got our back, right? That America's going to take care of us in whatever happens to us, no matter what. Well, America has really failed in its contract obligations to the service member. And that's where On Your Six Foundation is formed, to help bridge the gaps and connect the dots, to provide the support that the veterans need. And this is where Ms. Sharon and the Elks Lodge came together to help provide veterans that were showing up with just the shirt on their back. We're using an Uber to move because the system was so delayed in getting them the transition that they needed. On Your Six Foundation came in, helped them support in that transition, prayed with them, met with them. As a chaplain, I think it's very important to understand that they're being brought into community, no longer kicked out of service, but we're pulling them in to a community that cares about their support.
You know, the thing that kind of gets me, and Captain Fred and I have talked about this, and for those of you that are new and you're not new to this program, you know that Rick Del Vecchio and I have known each other for almost 45 years, Del Vecchio. I can't believe that. And Rick is like a brother to me. And Martha, his wife, is someone who I love and adore very much. And I've often said to Rick, and Rick and I agree on this, the national disgrace is how our veterans are treated. I'm not going to get into it because I get caught in the weeds on this because I get a little emotional. But I served in a war. It was called Vietnam. And I did my job and I came home. I didn't ask for anything. I got a little education out of it. I think, I'm not sure. University of Miami says I went there. I'm not sure what I got out of it, but I got something out of it. But it's a national disgrace the way our veterans are treated. Maybe it's because most of the people in Washington no longer serve in the military, but a few. Maybe it's because they're too concerned about keeping their jobs instead of doing their jobs, if I can quote from a movie. Maybe there's a lot of other reasons behind it. But I know one thing, that 30, 40 years ago, veterans were treated a whole lot better. Now, I know that the Vietnam veterans suddenly came on the VA with all their issues and medical problems, and the VA wasn't ready for that yet. I understand that. But since then, we are going through holy hell, veterans. I know veterans that waited and waited and waited to see doctors. They became homeless and they died waiting to see VA doctors because they couldn't get the right funding for that hospital to hire more doctors to see them in their particular areas. So for me, this hits close to home. How many buildings do you plan on building, and how many apartments overall over the next few years do you plan on constructing that are going to help veterans? And talk about how these veterans qualify to be part of that community.
Well, thank you. That was a great question. And you just touched upon, which quite frankly is my why. My why is to eradicate veteran suicide in my lifetime. That is anything I do, anything I'm associated with. Anytime you communicate with me, whether it's a for-profit business, it's ministry, or the nonprofit Under Six, you will know that Joshua's goal is to eradicate veteran suicide. And specifically here in Homestead, which is the first of many, we're hosting, and right now hosting 30 veterans that are inbound. And our goal is to have a total of 696 apartments here, planning all focused around the Housing First Initiative and the Vet First Plan, which is a veteran critical need compliancy focus. This is federal guidelines that were established over the past few years. And these are new nuances under VA reform over the past 10 years that we've advocated for, which I personally have been advocating for 20 years to get these reforms done. And now we're sitting at a precipice of change with a lot of VA reform that has occurred. So we have the ability now to get outside of the VA system through the community care network, and also provide the wraparound services that our veterans so critically need. And our goal is to house the veteran, help the veteran in their transition, because it's one of the most important, top 5 most stressful things to go through is in transition. And veterans go through numerous transitions, whether it's out of service, when we get kicked out and cut and put into the sea of forgetfulness from the DOD, but then they have to get into community, and that's what we're doing now, is really to help that veteran in the line of transition so they can have the stability that they need to be fruitful. Because if veterans are not rooted, well, right, this is for anybody, right? If you're not rooted, then you're not fruitful. This is the tree of life mindset. So we look to the 4 pillars of transition, one being first housing, which are the roots. Then you look to the second pillar, which is the whole veteran, which is the trunk of the tree of life, if you will visualize it. And that's the mental, spiritual, physical, emotional being, as we stated. You get to the third pillar, which are meaningful jobs, not just the veteran selling shoes. Quite frankly, for all those who want to, that's great. But that you don't normally have a PJ, which is someone jumping out of an airplane and holding his nose, then go and start selling shoes and really think that's fulfilling. Okay, you go from a high extreme experience, jumping out of airplanes. You need something that's fulfilling in your life, and then at the same time, the earned benefits of the service member. Ensure that they're receiving the earned benefits for their cause of service during their time of service, and then whatever earned benefits are also associated, GI Bill associated, take care of them, and that's income-driven, mission-driven focus. From there, you get to faith and community, and that's the 4th pillar, which that's where the veteran is fruitful. The veteran needs to be fruitful. If we're not fruitful, then we take axes, we start trimming the branches, changing the job, or we uproot ourselves and go find another hole to get into when we're not meant to. We're meant to stay where we're at, maybe work on whatever needs to be worked on so we can be fruitful again. And so what we're seeing right now is a huge discrepancy in this conversation across the country, right? It's an anti-veteran sentiment, which you spoke about. And by the way, welcome home, brother, because you didn't hear it enough when you served. And I say that to many of our service members and every gentleman here as well that serve. Welcome home, because you deserve to be welcomed and to be brought home again after the sacrifices that you've gone through to fight for freedom. And every veteran deserves that. Every veteran who has fought for this red, white, and blue and carries that up on their chest and has earned their medal from going out to fighting overseas and coming home after surviving the firefight should be taken care of and honored for their sacrifice. And every one of us, after fighting Wahhabism for the past 40 years, every one of us who has fought against communism or fought against the onslaught of destruction across the world to then save lives, earned those benefits and was told that they would be made whole again. So the need and demand is way beyond what we can just individually do on ourselves, right? So my goals, if you spoke to this, is our down south, is to really make a major dent in the 4,500 veterans that are in Florida that are homeless, in the 300,000 veterans that are underhoused in Florida alone. And I mean the 292,000 specifically that are living in squalor, that are living in some type of moldy infested garbage property, and then those who already have vouchers that can move into and up in their mindset to go to the next level of living. Our goal right now within the partnerships of the directors of August 6 Foundation is to see 10,000 of these type of Excello properties built and or renovated over the next 10 years. Now, our goals here in Florida alone are 3,500, and our first tranche, which we're speaking of in the first 3 phases, are 696 in Homestead, Florida. Of that right now, we already have a plan to house about 100 veterans that are specifically HUD-VASH, and that is Section 8, which is federally mandated and controlled. And we are also qualified through every HUD relationship, as well as Miami-Dade and Hialeah. And so we go through and make sure that the city knows who we are. We communicate with the mayor. We let them know what we're doing, who we're doing it for, why we're serving, and why we're specifically a vet-first oriented mindset. And then from there, we have been fully ingratiated, encouraged to communicate with said HUD organizations, veteran service organizations, which I'm a lifetime member on as well, and as a chaplain inside the community, convey what it is that we're doing to serve the community that we care so much about. So our goals are not by any means going to eradicate this homeless in Florida specifically, but what we pray and we hope that by leading the way, by really setting a challenge to others, that this is how you set an excellent living that is net zero for veterans, that others will come alongside us. And in a Manhattan-style project, instead of building the next weapon of destruction, that we are organizing and building our community together to really eradicate this compounding increase in veteran suicide. That we're now 44 to 50 veterans a day that from self-inflicted wounds have uprooted themselves or somehow taking the axe to themselves and are caused by self-inflicted harm are no longer on this earth, right? And it is increasing.
Okay. We have a new member who just joined us. Care to introduce yourself, sir?
Jason.
Jason.
Yes, I am.
He's listening.
I had to unmute it first. I'm Jason. I'm the Vice Commander of the American Legion, Post 43 out here in Homestead. I've had the opportunity to meet with Sharon, with Josh, and basically we're a support organization. We're here to support. Many people don't realize, unlike other veteran organizations, the American Legion, we have membership for everyone. You don't just have to be the veteran. So, and when we talk about veterans, we're talking about active duty, those that have served already, and family members and their children. And so anyone can come to us, ask for assistance, and we're there. We're out there to get people in the right direction, to help advocate for them, work with local community resources. We have resources we can give. Matter of fact, first time speaking to Josh since the weekend, but matter of fact, he just had someone that he needed help with that I believe is actually staying at one of his facilities, one of his apartments.
That's correct. He stayed at our safe haven, and I referred him over because we knew that the American Legion does a great job in taking care of our service members and wanted to ensure that he was receiving the support he needed.
Before we go any further, let me just say to everybody out there where you're watching Main Street, Gary Allen with you, along with a number of people joining us from On Your Six Foundation, anywhere from the Elks organization to the American Legion Post 43 in Homestead, as well as the Elks Lodges 948 and 1676. I didn't do it again. Rick, how does the Elks and Sharon and Captain Fred, we're going to get to you. That's
Sure.
my captain, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. That's my captain. That's my man. How are the Elks helping participate in this along with the American Legion? And Rick, you've already been down to the facilities. What did you see so far?
Unbelievable. I mean, they're beautiful, number one. And as he said, they got, I think, 356 units underway. And the way I got involved, Sharon and I, about a year and a half ago, I guess, Sharon and I started working together with the Focus Grant. And we didn't want to duplicate efforts, so we worked together. We went to the VA. We found out how many homeless women there were that needed assistance, how many homeless men. Sharon used her money to help the women. We helped the men. That's why we didn't duplicate. And then I don't remember if you called me. I called you. I think you called me, Sharon, to tell me about the On Your Six Foundation. And then Fred and I went down with her and Ozzy and toured the facility. It's unbelievable. And like I say, it's great to know about this because there's a program, as Sharon said, that I haven't tapped into. Fred had nobody in our lodge, or even I don't believe 948. The Welcome Home Kit will donate $600 per apartment per vet, if it includes a bed, to furnish it with a bed, dishes, toaster ovens, small appliances, whatever you need. They need knives and forks, whatever vet needs. They can give us a shopping list. We'll buy it for them, and the Welcome Home Kits will pay for it. And as I said, 200 rooms, that's going to be about $120,000 that the Elks, just our two lodges, will be contributing to the cause. And that's great because, as everybody knows, it's an atrocity that we have so many homeless veterans in this country.
Yes.
So I think 40.
Is this just open to vets, or is it also open to their families? And what if someone can't pay for it? What if a vet cannot pay for it, or a vet can pay for it? He has or she has income. Is there a charge? Is there a cost to the vet? Before we get to that, Captain Fred, what did you think of the facility when you saw it?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's about time. It's as far as I'm concerned. You're going to send an 18, 19-year-old kid to fight a war someplace. You better take care of him when he gets back. And, there's nobody knows a veteran like another veteran. Judging from what I'm seeing on the screen right now, most of us had a support system when we got back. We had to deal with things, but we had a support system that we didn't have to do what some of these guys had to do, go to drugs, alcohol, and whatever that takes, living under the trees, living in the bus stops. You name it. I mean, it's a pity that these guys have been left behind. And that's one thing that we were taught, that you don't leave anybody behind. And it's sad that it's come to this situation. And when you get the number of suicides from these young ones, no next generation should ever go through with what the Vietnam veterans did. And we need to make sure that these guys get the support system that they need. You see things, you do things that you regret for, that you have to live with for the rest of your life. The guys that did make it back, their worries are over. But the guys that did make it back, they have to deal with those issues until the day they die. They were killed in Vietnam, but didn't die until they got back home. And let me tell you something, it's sad that this has to come to a point where, you get these politicians that are set for life after one tour, and you can't give a veteran something to look forward to and rehabilitate himself. You know what I mean? It just doesn't doesn't make sense.
That's why
Well
that's
said.
what I said.
Well said,
That's
Fred.
why that's why I said, Fred, earlier, that it's a national disgrace that our
is a-
veterans
it is a
are
blemish.
forgotten about by these politicians because they're too concerned about saving their own butt and sitting in those seats instead of doing their jobs that they're supposed to do, or running off and killing their puppy dog because it's the easy thing for her to do. And I mean, that woman is crazy anyway, but
that was silly. Yeah.
that's getting me off on another tangent. Now, Josh and Jason, is there a cost involved if a vet has
Yes.
some money? if they don't have money, take us through this, guys, and as to
Sure.
so get to the meat and potatoes of what this is. What this is.
Of course. So, and as Jason, we also follow the C19 model, which Jason was speaking about, and that is where we focus on military and their families, first responders, government employees, and when I say first responders and government employees, it's GS level, federal contractors as well. So our focus is vet first, military first, and then so typically what happens is a veteran will receive their voucher or their ability to have Section 8 cover their rent, and then they go to an apartment and they're given scraps. Okay, they're given like the bottom of the run. They're not, or they're giving only a few apartments that are even looking at them, considering them, because unfortunately this anti-veteran stigma that has been pervading for 70 years. Yeah. 70 years we've been fighting this. This is my father did, who served in the Korean wartime. Basically, right after World War II, which my granduncle served, my grandfather served in World War II, my great-grandfather, World War I. There's a way different mindset when they came back, right? The Eddies of our time, which we're losing so many of and very few are left of, which they came back as a hero. They came back and people cared and rolled out the carpet and did whatever they needed to. Build my house. Let's get it going. Let's get let's get them part of industry. And that is what created the backbone of America that made it such a beautiful, beautiful light on a hill to push us into this next era, which all of us have been able to be a part of that fruit of, right? Was that they took care of the service member. And then somewhere along the lines, right? I'm not going to point to who and when that started to happen, but it went opposite. It started to get more socialist in thought process, and started to Marxism invaded and said that no, the veteran actually isn't the answer, and the service member isn't the answer to everything that we need. And let's put them to the back of the bus. And instead of giving them the keys and letting them drive this bus, which is America, if you will, in that paradigm, they put them to the back of the bus. And so this anti-veteran sentiment is one that I've been fighting against so much in the Hill or anywhere locally as well. That no, the service member actually is the leader, is the one that you want to see navigating you through the tumultuous problems, because they have survived the firefight.
Can I interrupt you just for a second, Josh? Because you were talking about, I don't know when it turned, and Rick and I are pretty much about the same age. So, and you young'uns, including Miss Sharon, you young'uns, I'm
the oldest.
But I think, Rick, back in the 60s, when you and I were kids, it started to turn that no longer did people think about a career in the military or joining the military. There was a time when you were in the military, that was a great thing. That was a wonderful thing. And in case you don't know this, to Native Americans, being in the military is a big deal to them. That is a huge deal. The code talkers and just in general serving in the military. And it used to be that way, whether you were in the Army, I was in the Air Force, or the Navy, or the Marine Corps, like my father, and it didn't matter. But Rick, remember when there would be somebody on your block that would join the military, even though you may only know them, you would smile. And I remember a little kid in my neighborhood when I came home from my first tour in Southeast Asia. He saluted me. This little kid. I don't even know who he is to this day, but he saluted me and I saluted him back. That changed. Vietnam War changed all of that because we saw it on the 6 o'clock news. And when Walter Cronkite said what he said, and then Johnson, LBJ turned around and said, well, if I've lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost the American people. And that's when the mistrust of government and everything else began to creep into our society. And that's where I think things exploded in another direction. Rick, I could be wrong, but do you agree with me to an extent?
No, of course. I mean, you just look at the difference back when we were kids. Every birthday or Christmas, I got toys, a toy rifle. It was wood. It was the same rifle they used to do, bolt action. I had my dad, my biological father spent 8 years in the Marine Corps. And we got canteens, real canteens, the Garrison belt. They used to use leggings in World War I and World War II. I don't think they use them anymore. We had the leggings. My brother was in the what did they call it? It's like the junior. I don't know. I forgot.
ROTC.
Junior ROTC.
Not ROTC, but it doesn't matter. But
Civil Air Patrol. Yeah, there was a bunch.
Yeah, full regalia, and all our friends, we played war. Ignorant idiots we were, but that's what you grew up on in the States. John Wayne movies and rah rah America. But then you said it changed with Vietnam.
You got to remember that was a different time. World War II, the whole nation, the whole world was at it. Vietnam was a different story. But Korea was a different story. The funny thing about it is that when I walk around, I always wear my 173rd or my Special Forces hat, and people will come up to me and say, "I thank you for your service." I used to say, "Thank you for your support," but now I'm starting to say, "I did this for you," because 1% of the people in this country are the ones that have to do and carry the load, where the other 99 enjoy the fruits of their labor, and that's not right. Okay.
Your hand is blocking the camera, Fred.
Fred, your hand is blocking the camera.
There you go.
Josh, talk about the people. Josh, talk about the people that. What are the qualifications? What do you have to? I mean, there's got to be standards. You just don't let anybody walk through the front door. But talk about the standards of what will qualify or disqualify an individual.
Well, thank you. So first is the DD-214, right? That's that service, as Fred was just talking about, where we went through and survived the firefight or survived government enslavement that we naturally went into. For me, it was Navy. So never again volunteer yourself is what we joke is the acronym for Navy. So I volunteered in at 17. Others of you gentlemen went into your age, right, in your time. But first is the DD-214. So if a service member comes in, walking in with a DD-214, and let's say they have no way to pay. Okay, well, then we direct them to the Safe Haven program. The Safe Haven program is a shelter-in-place program. Well, the veterans that says, "Hey, I'm going to come in, but I'm going to abide by these rules and designations that I'm going to make sure that I'm providing a safe environment for the other service members as well." And then they get a chance to get into the programs that VA already has associated and prepared for them. And from there, if they're in the Safe Haven and they're actively taking action for both themselves and to get their permanent housing, then they can remain in the Safe Haven. Now, if a veteran does have the income and is providing it and qualifies immediately, then they can go for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom apartment. And or if they bring in a battle buddy, we encourage roommates that they together can be able to get a 2-bedroom, then that is sufficient as well. We are also willing to work with veterans who've shown consistency and partnership in some way into a 1-bedroom and then bring that underneath one household. So veterans qualify, and then they can also, their family members qualify. First responders, as we spoke about, we have DHS and CBP as well inside the first responder community, and some of our first nurses have just moved in, as well as police officers. So this is whom we serve, and as you can see in the line right there, it's everybody. Okay, everybody who puts their mind and heart into civil service and serving our community is one that we look to first. Okay, we follow equal housing protection, so people are welcome, but there are guidelines that we adhere to, and everyone has to sign a code of ethics as what they're going to do, how they're going to maintain their living, because this is an Excello living community. We believe in excellent living in net zero fashion. Jason,
talk about what would disqualify someone who's already there, and talk about how people can find out. And Tommy, if you would please put up the website for On Your Six, please, because I think a lot of the things that we're talking about can be found on the website. And but Jason, talk about how people can find out about it and where can they go to sign up if they want to, because these apartments are being built as we speak. So it's still down the road for many people to find a residence there. So Jason, talk about that if you would, sir.
Okay. Well, Joshua, Sharon, they're your best resources. At the Legion, we work with them. We can promote them, get them in touch with them. We're usually a first response type people. People come off the street, they come to us. We carry all the resources, and we have what we call advocate officers that work with us, and we'll speak to them. And hey, what are you looking for? What is your financial status? What's your family status? What's your medical status? And then once they speak to us, we know do we refer them to the VA? Do we refer them to someone like Joshua? Do we refer them to another organization that's within the community? Is there something that we can do? We can offer veteran assistance locally also, and help people just get on their feet. And then once we refer them, we say, hey, these are the people to talk to. We will talk for you. We will advocate for you. And we'll go through the whole process with you and allow them individually, those organizations, to determine whether they meet their eligibility. If they don't meet their separate eligibility, then we'll carry them on and we'll move them along. But until that time comes, we're not going to leave them on the street. We have processes where we can give them temporary housing. We can give them hotel rooms. We have places, we can help pay their bills. We can pay cell phone bills if they need them. We just had a few people with paying utilities because they do get sick. They can't stay in an apartment. People, they're ready to kick them out because, hey, a veteran gets sick. If you go to VA hospital, but no one's going to pay the bill, they're not going to hold the apartment for you. We can step in, and as a local post for the community, we can do things like that. But as for individual requirements to get in, like I said, Joshua he's the expert on that because he handles all that type of documentation and acceptance procedures.
Is there on the website, which is oy6.org, is there something on there where people can I know is there a phone number, I believe, on there, which
there is oy6.org. There's details and also a link specifically to this property, because as we're sharing, this is happening, quite frankly, all throughout the country. So we have other properties as well, but not specifically net zero that have been new construction from the ground up, and that's occurring right now. But yes, you can go to the website and then it links to it. But we also have details inside of the property specifically, because we do also a Hero Village and tiny homes as well, and apartments that are in partnership with others. So the goal here at Modern Towers is, yes, come in with those who are service members and those associated with the VA, but anybody who is tied to our community who is served, right, that we're talking about. We're building community together, because 35% of those who serve right now actively in some civil service are typically veterans. So veterans that we could provide service to is what we're looking at right now and what we're serving in our community. There are guidelines for, like any other apartment complex, right? The beauty with when they apply is that as a chaplain, I'm a principal. So I can look at their file specifically and communicate with them and say, okay, I understand that you went through a hardship about 5 years ago. What was the nature of that? And they can communicate with me what had happened and occurred, and then I can override the file. So that's different from when you're dealing with other apartment complexes that are heartless or callous or could care less about history and all they want to see are the numbers. We come from a compassionate standpoint, and we work with the service member or the first responder to help them through the process. And we connect with, as American Legion was just speaking about, we'll connect them with the support that they need in order. Maybe there's an outlying debt of $300 or something that's just a judgment that's looming over them that's hurting their credit. We'll say, hey, have you thought about getting that paid off real quick? And then let's come back in this conversation again. And then, hey, oh my gosh, look at that, you qualify, right? So there's a way different perspective in handling and helping the service member than just saying, no, you don't get to the back of the bus, get out of here. Sorry, your numbers don't match. Because when I look at your numbers, you look like an elephant, and that works for me. That's not how we are.
Yeah, I hate it when they treat veterans or anybody like a throwaway, disposable human being, like they're not worth it because of one thing or another. Sharon, what is it that you would like to see? And I want to get everybody's opinion on this panel. What is it you would like to see this become? How far do you wish it to be? Thousands of apartments in Homestead and throughout the state of Florida. I mean, how do you want to see this unfold?
I would like to see all over the United States, anywhere the need is there. I think that, we should take care of the veterans, and I'm just doing one little thing. I'm just trying to, collect and deliver, and it's a pleasure to pass out these items to the gentleman, because you go to a silverware and they say, I only need one place setting, give it to somebody else. I mean, the people that I have met there, the veterans, they're just so grateful, and for anything. I mean, it's just amazing. So how I'm not responsible for anything but trying to help.
Yeah.
But this project that Joshua has, it would be awesome if it was all over the United States, the world, because I'm sure other places, you travel, there's people that are homeless as well that have served. So just anybody, anywhere that can help, that's what should happen.
Rick, a week ago or so, you and Captain Fred went out and passed out some backpacks. Was it to this facility?
No, that was to the VA. We did it to 50 to the female veterans and Denise Ramirez, and another 50 over at the Carter. Is it the Carter Center, Fred?
Yes, at Carter, the Miami VA Carter Center.
Yeah, and those backpacks were filled with toiletries, and also we gave gift cards to Dollar Tree and also to Publix. So, and that was a $6,000 grant called the Beacon Spotlight Grant that we had. Touch on what Sharon said. This would be great to go nationwide, which I know eventually it will. And the Elks with these welcome home packages. I'd asked, and Sharon asked, how many is the limit? It's unlimited. Now, if they really mean that, there's 36 to 40,000 homeless vets. So eventually,
put that to the test.
Now, before I forget, I texted my older brother. It was part of the Jewel team of the VFW, and they used to, I guess they were cadets.
Cadets.
In the parades like Flag Day, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, they'd have parades, and that's where I remember watching them in the parades. And they had the rifles, if I remember correctly, were white in those parades. But
yes, a lot of times, yes, yeah, but, and they wouldn't fire a bullet. I mean, they were all
no.
They weren't that type of situation.
He practiced twice a week when he was in that program for a while. But
oh yeah. I mean, to give you an idea, if you go to Washington. And the service personnel who were at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, they're constantly practicing and rehearsing to make sure that they get it right. And I've seen that ceremony one too many times.
You know what's interesting, and don't get me wrong, all these organizations do a good job, but I'm the VA rep at Miami VA, and I'm also the past district director, and my main concern or committee was veterans programs. Right. I go to every single lodge in the South Florida area asking for donations, gift cards, clothes. Now they're specifically wanting used stuff like socks and underwears and that kind of stuff. But when I heard about this program, I says, I went to the Tavernier Lodge. They're redoing their whole kitchen, and they serve up to 200 to 250 things at any function. And they're redoing the dishes, they're redoing their silverware. So I told them, if it's in good shape, serviceable, pack it up. I'll pick it up and I'll take it to some place where they could use that stuff. And we do that with every single lodge: Miami, South Miami, Tavernier, Marathon, and Key West. And there's a tremendous need throughout the whole area. All you have to do is just drive down the streets, and you'll see these guys in these locations looking for handouts.
Jason, let me ask you on that note, because I've been wanting to talk to somebody from the American Legion for a while. I know Rick and I definitely do. Do you guys do something very similar? I'm sure you do for the American Legion, for the veterans with the American Legion. Talk about that.
We support. We do a lot for, and if you're talking about with the homeless and stuff. When there's holidays, we do a lot, I should say, both with the homeless, local veterans, and also with the Homestead Air Reserve Base. We try to tie them all together, and we incorporate it all. And whatever event we're doing with whoever we're helping, we'll help all three. We don't hold it into one. Just say, hey, we have something just for the homeless. Of course, they take priority with us. We want to help them, but hey, we got plenty of veterans that are sitting home alone, don't have resources, don't have family. Living in squalor, can't afford housing. We have people at the Air Force Base that are there either on a TDY or just came down. No family, no resources, stuff. I'll just bring up, you were talking about what Josh was talking about and where you want, and Sharon, where you want to see us in the future. A big thing I'm dealing with, or I should say the Legion, and we have people coming in, you have soldiers and active duty military living here now that cannot even afford housing themselves.
Yeah,
exactly.
They are renting places. We have such it's gotten so expensive. These owners of these houses are coming in saying, "Hey, we used to get $1,000 a month, but I can rent it out to someone private from out of the country that wants to come in for $3,000-$4,000 a month."
Yeah.
And they're passing this along to our military members, and our military members have no place to live in these areas.
Yes.
Could I say, Gary, I don't want to camp on that just for a second. I was speaking
Sure.
directly to the CEO of the base and others, and
Yeah.
to the family support centers, and we were talking about this and how horrible it is, just with a base rate of an E4 and what it takes just to where they're staying at. And so we came up with a plan. We said, let's pull those two together in the Battle Buddy plan in order to get these veterans to deal with these active duty TDY to work together with us. We can then split their deposit up so they're not coming out with a first month's rent, last month's rent, and double security deposit is being asked of active duty military to just be able to live off base, and there's no more base housing for them. So they don't even have the chance, like maybe some of us did, to live on base with that little bit of money that we had to hold on to. They have to go outside, and then they're getting mortgages at high interest rates, and they can't afford that either. So it is an existential housing crisis for our active duty service members and our veterans and first responders in our community, which represent the backbone of America, the very core nucleus of the cell that is America, right? Is underneath this attack.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. There's no respect for military people anymore because most of the people in this country have never served in the military. They couldn't conceive of it.
And you know what? Let me add something on this. I'm finding also, because of this stigma with the military and the public, I'm finding a lot of military people don't want to come in and ask other military people for help these days either.
Right.
I'm dealing. Sure. I was just told of a family. I have a family of 4 that someone recommended to me to go speak to them in the Coast Guard. Just moved out here. They have some medical bills. The husband, he works up in Southcom. His car broke down. He doesn't have any money, didn't have the money to pay for the bills for a new car. He's trying to get to work. Family has some other conditions going on. And they don't know where to turn, but they don't want to ask for help either. They're like, oh no, military, we thought military is supposed to take care of us on our own. And they don't. There's no services for this extra money. They're not making great salaries, all these men and women who are serving. And they're afraid to come to us because they think there's a stigma associated asking for that help. They can't provide. Instead, they're providing for everyone else in the country, looking out for everyone else's priorities, and there's no one helping them, including our own. Yeah. And we have to stand up to each other and let them know there's no stigma asking for help, especially from us that served alongside them already.
Yeah, it's also called within yourself a little bit of pride. Sometimes people, their pride is a little bigger and they don't want to admit I'm going through a bad time, and they're maybe afraid to ask somebody for some help. So that does go on too from time to time. I know that for an absolute fact. Let's talk about something here, you guys, about with On Your 6. How do you help some of these people get back into productive lives? And because we've got about 10 more minutes, actually about 8 minutes left before the program. How do you help the vets? And then talk about how they can get a hold of you to have productive lives in society if they come to you. And I know you through counseling and everything. So talk about that, and then we'll conclude it up.
So that's a part of it. So what research has already found, and this is psychology even understands this, that when you get living beings in community, they stray away from the harmful ingestation, whatever that is. Okay. So what our goal is to first get them in community. Housing is so important. So first get the veteran housed, and immediately this has already happened. Just as last week, as Sharon was talking, as she was talking with the veteran, as she was handing out the goods and their welcome home kits, and they were receiving that from the Elks Lodge, and we're honoring that in conversation. And as more and more of them were moving in, there was this immediate sense of community. Hey, how's so-and-so doing? Hey, so-and-so, do you need some help with your stuff? Hey, have you got a baking pan by chance? Hey, I'm bringing you some breakfast tomorrow because I'm really excited that of all these new utensils I just got from the Elks Lodge. And they're building that camaraderie immediately. It happened right in front of us. As I'm coming down the elevator, I'm seeing other people. Yeah, I'm just getting my furniture in. And they got buddy so and so with them, 3 of their friends, and they say, "Hey, when are you gonna come over? Get some coffee." Hang on. All of this conversation's going on. You start to see that happening automatically, organically, because they're housed and they're excited because they're receiving not some rickety, broken down property, but they're living in a net zero luxury apartment with marble floors, and they have their own controls for their mini split systems, and they step out onto a luxurious large deck and are looking in the community. They're super excited to have that. So they have a sense of honor in their community immediately and with those involved. And so what we do from there is we have that automatic camaraderie. We start scheduling events, and that's where we talk about the whole veteran, right? They're all already talking, hey, what are we going to get together so I can meet the new move-ins and see who else needs assistance? And because they're thinking not only for themselves, they realize it's half for them and half for the other service members, a 50-50. It's a give and take. And they want to be fruitful in the community, but they haven't been in one. So there's not an ability to be fruitful in community without community, right? So then as soon as they're giving and they're being a part of this together, then we're looking at the rest of community, where we're being fruitful and faithful with the VSOs, the American Legions, the VFWs. You start seeing them come into the Elks Lodge because they're going to realize, oh, this is a community that cares. And you start seeing a new blood that flows into the organizations that are supporting us. And from there, they're serving out to the outside community that we have built. And we also encourage them with the wraparound services. This is where their earned benefits come into play. And some of our veterans haven't even been provided any services, hardly at all. We have some of the Safe Haven who, after 15 years of service, never even stepped foot into a VA hospital because they had this anti-veteran stigma that was just pervading in their brain, that if they went in there, they'd never get out again. Okay. Yeah. And this is not proper. So we have to help them, to educate them that no, we are here to help. And even though they're 20% of the VA may only be service members of some sort, the system is not built to totally destroy you. Okay. But we are here to get you in the right direction and utilize the wraparound services that are there to help you along your way with your recovery. Because the majority of us are carrying some wound, whether it's external or internal. There's a cost for this war that we have been pervading in these endless wars in, and we are the ones that are grunting and carrying those wounds of war and those scars of war. And our service members are walking in with them. So you can come to us at oi6.org. You can donate at end27.org. That specifically goes to help sponsor a veteran. For $1,100 a month, we can get a veteran from outreach and house them in a safe haven and get them on their way to permanent housing. And again, that is the starting point to ensure that we eradicate veteran suicide. Because when
how do they get on your list that they want the housing? How do they find out? Do they go on oy6.org? Is there a place where they can sign up there?
There is a chat box right there. They can communicate with us at info@oy6.org. They can go or info@end27.org. Specifically, email us, or if they want to call, there's a phone number there, an 866 number at the website to say, hey, I'm looking for housing in Homestead. I'm looking for housing in Portsmouth, Virginia. They can specifically stipulate which property and what location that they're located in. And if they're also looking for housing, they have their vouchers and want to transfer out of their decrepit location and come to a very nice, luxurious place in Homestead, they can, and they can transfer to us as well.
All right. Okay. All right. Listen, I just want to thank each and every one of you, Jason, Josh, Rick Del Vecchio, Sharon Weiss, and my dear, dear friend who I love with all my heart, Captain Fred Jocka, my captain, and who I would salute no matter what. And I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. I appreciate it very much. We're going to have you back as we talk about On Your Six, which for those of you that may or may not be familiar with it, it's a military term, police term, meaning I've got your back. This program is made possible because of the Elks organizations, Elks Lodges of South Florida, as well as the Japanese Gardens of South Florida. Their continued support is really helpful. And we'd like to get the American Legion support in on this too, Jason. So talk to Del Vecchio, my brother from another mother. I'm telling you. By the way, if you guys have never tried this before, He makes the best Swedish meatballs you'll ever have in your entire
All
life.
right. Looking forward to it now.
Swedish meatball. Now, to show you how much of a family member I am to him, I never get any of the Swedish meatballs. So, you know, it is what it is. But I just want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us today. And let me just close out this program by just saying to all of you who watch this program, please tune in with us. Get in touch with the On Your Six Foundation. Help them out. Help our veterans. They need your help. They were there for you when you wanted them to help you keep your freedoms. Now they need you to keep themselves going forward after the fact. Because if you leave it up to the guys in Washington, it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're too busy keeping their job instead of doing their job, or they're too busy figuring out how they're going to rule instead of administratively take care of this country. So without that getting too maudlin into it, thank you all very much. And from all of us here at Main Street, Rick Del Vecchio, my executive producer, Tommy Schmidt, who is also my board op as well as my producer on the scene, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us on Main Street. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.